I just wanted to first start the conversation by thanking CENDLOS. If we could just give them a round of applause for everything they've done. And a warm thank you for just welcoming me to the conference. And I've fallen in love with Ghana and all the people I've met so far. I don't want to leave. So, and I also want to tell you, I have a confession to make. So when I was asked to speak about digital education and equity, I didn't know where to start because I've been working on this for 15 years. There's so much that I could say. So every day of this conference, I made it a point to speak to teachers and to speak to students, to speak to policymakers. And each day, I learned more and more about the context of Ghana. So I wanted to be able to deliver this speech in the context of Ghana. So I rewrote my speech, probably about 7 times. And the last one was written about 3:30 in the morning. So you'll have to forgive me, but I'm going to read my notes just to make sure that I get it right. And hopefully it's coherent, because I think I still have jet lag. When we think of digital learning and equity in education, we think about some of our most marginalized students, which includes children with visible and invisible disabilities. When we design with those students in mind at the forefront in the beginning, we create a more inclusive and digitally accessible experience for our youth. Designing with and for our users in mind, and prototyping our content with them, thinking about these various types of learners. That will help us improve upon the usability and the accessibility in the classroom for all our students. Chances are most of you in this room have sat in a face-to-face class. Think back to a time where you were there, in that classroom. Do you remember the kid that always sat near the front of the room, raised their hand all the time? The one that was eager and ready to participate? Maybe that was you. Do you remember the student that sat in the back of the room, that maybe slouched down, did not make eye contact? Maybe that was you. Maybe you struggled with social anxiety or a speech impediment or had any number of barriers that made it difficult for you to participate like the other classmates. Well, teachers often struggle in a face-to-face class to address the needs of both of these kinds of students in a way that is fair and equitable. In my experience as a teacher, those students were often far more engaged online, where they participated in chats and various polls and interactive digital experiences. Those students who sat at the back of the room, I saw them develop meaningful relationships with their peers online for the first time in some cases. One benefit to digital learning is the ability to use adaptive learning solutions. Those can pre-assess students. They can meet them where they're at. And they can create a customized learning plan for them so students can go at their own pace, and teachers can provide differentiated instructions and scaffolded support. Using accessible content that allows customizability also helps us meet the needs of various types of diverse student bodies. When students, for example, are able to slow down or speed up video, turn captions on or off, consume content, and deliver many different types of assessments, have that variability and that flexibility, that is meeting their needs. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we had, and we still do, have a mental health crisis in our youth. An overabundance of summative high-stakes tests causes anxiety. They can be stressful. So formative assessments can be a better way to check for understanding, and it can be more flexible, allowing students to select from a few ways to show us what they know. Whether that's an oral presentation, a portfolio-based project, or a traditional essay, allowing that flexibility in digital and face-to-face learning improves not only equity, but also motivation. For dyslexic students, we need to be aware in the ways that we design documents. We know some of these hard copy textbooks in a face-to-face classroom are designed with only one font. Did you know that there's certain fonts where the letter forms have the propensity to mirror? This makes it very difficult for children with dyslexia to learn to read and to read the content. In a digital environment, we can change the fonts of our documents. And then, therefore, improve reading for our dyslexic students. For print-disabled children and vision-impaired, we want to provide accessible textbooks, work with providers to find partnerships to get these in the hands of our children. For hard of hearing, we want to always have the captions and transcripts available for videos. Have you ever watched a video without captions, with no volume, and struggled to understand what was going on? Can you imagine what that's like for someone who's hard of hearing all the time? There's so much that I can say about learnings from the pandemic, equity, and the digital divide. But what I saw over the last couple of days was a deep-seated commitment to bridge learning loss, improve equity, and reach all our students despite socioeconomic class, disability, connectivity, gender, and geography. We had a diverse audience attend this conference, and they came from the private sector, academia, the public and private school, government, humanitarian sectors, and everything in between. But I know when you all meet again in the next distance learning conference, we're going to see the great achievements of all of us working together to share resources with all hands on deck, to provide access and the same level of high quality education that is available and will be available to all Ghanaian children, and we can celebrate a more equitable future for Ghana. Thank you.